If you're pregnant, it's time to boost your protection from COVID-19. Protection from previous vaccines or from COVID-19 infection decreases over time. Your next vaccine will help protect you and your baby from serious illness in the months ahead. For information or to book an appointment at a HSC vaccination centre, visit hsc.ie. Call our team in HSC Live on 1800 700 700 or contact a participating GP or pharmacy. From the HSC. For us all.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the second hour of the programme, and good morning if you are just switching your radio on. We are broadcasting live today from Malin Head. As we head towards the end of the summer, we're going to be talking about this part of the world in a bit more detail after 11 o'clock. We have a number of guests joining us. We're going to discuss what we're doing right, what we could do better, and it's not just about Malin Head, of course. It's about many of our amenities, natural amenities that we have. People arriving here in foreign registered vehicles have travelled great distances, not just within Donegal or within Ireland, but within Europe to come and wander here and take in these most amazing views. And they are absolutely stunning views. It's a nice clear day here. And we'll be talking more about that a little later on in the programme, of course. In this hour, we're going to be talking about someone or someones going around and obscuring or marking out English language on our road signs. It's happening right across the county, it seems. Why is it happening? What would it achieve? I don't know, but we're going to be discussing that. And also, we're going to be reflecting on the life of Michael Collins. It's 100 years since his death. Dr. Joe Kelly, a historian, will be joining us to discuss that. That and so much more besides. But let's take a quick break to get the bingo numbers, and we'll be joined by our next guest in just a
It's time for Ncbi Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Monday the 22nd of August. You're playing on the green sheet. The reference number is S6. It's game number 34. The numbers are 62, 66, 9, 4, 59, 17, 70, 79, 45, and finally 63. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Is your Skoda a little older? Pre-loved, perhaps? What adventures, I wonder, did it have in the past? Another family, another life, bright city lights, or a quiet country existence seeing Ireland's best sights? We don't really need your car's story. With a Skoda service, you get a complete vehicle health check, genuine Skoda parts, and free roadside assistance for 12 months.
Your local Skoda dealer is DMG Motors, Clare Road, Donegal Town. Telephone 074 97 21 396 or visit dmgmotors.ie.
At AIB, we know how difficult finding the right home can be. The patience, resilience and belief you hold on to at every house viewing. But when you finally do find the right home, AIB can make the mortgage part easier. Our green mortgage is available when you buy an energy-efficient home. Find out more at aib.ie. AIB, we back belief. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. Valid birth certificate of B3 or higher required. Allied Irish Banks plc is an authorised agent and servicer of AIB Mortgage Bank QC in relation to the origination and servicing of mortgage loans and mortgages. Allied Irish Banks plc and AIB Mortgage Bank QC are regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Century Complex Letterkenny are holding a charity fun day in aid of Donegal Hospice and Letterkenny Food Bank on Wednesday the 24th of August. Check out centurycinemas.ie and Century Cinemas social media pages for more information on how you can help support these charities while having lots of fun on Wednesday the 24th of August.
Mourne Antiques and Jewellery are celebrating 30 years in business in Letterkenny with 30% off. See their great range of antique and contemporary gold and silver pieces, Hollywood-era costume jewellery and some rare and exclusive engagement rings. Also, their selection of antique china, silver, furniture and decorative pieces. Mourne Antiques on Main Street, Letterkenny, celebrating 30 years in Letterkenny with 30% off this week only.
With selected models readily available, it's time to treat yourself to a brand new car. Our Nissan lineup is unbeatable in their class. Call today or visit us in Letterkenny or Malin, or visit imotors.ie.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. Really pleased to welcome onto it now Barbara Ukal, Language Planning Coordinator with LINRA. Good morning to you, Barbara. Thanks for joining us again. How are you keeping?
Grand, Greg. Thanks a million for having me on.
No, it's good to have you on, and often we speak, and it's in the positive, talking about what can be done, what we are doing, what initiatives are there. But this time, we're talking in the context of what's popping up around the county, seemingly, and that is our road signs that are bilingual. The English, for the most part, that I've seen so far, in the prominent position. Above it, the Irish. Someone is going around putting red marks through the English version of our place names. I don't know if it's a publicity stunt or something, that has more meaning than that. It's got us talking about it again. What's your take on what's going on?
I think that if somebody is trying to start a conversation about the importance of place names, maybe this isn't the best way to do it, in all honesty. Now, I understand the frustration. Like, Irish place names are so important and beautiful and meaningful, and we get lost. We lose so much of that whenever we have English transliterations of those names that are meaningless. So I do understand the frustration that we're so reliant on English names for places. But I think the important thing here, and the important thing that we try to do in Léonra Litcher is open the door and invite people in to have a conversation. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's really vital. And I think if you're defacing road signs or spraying out the English, there's a very strong possibility that all you're going to do is wind people up. So I don't think it invites people into the conversation. I think there are better ways of doing it. But I do think we need to look at how we're using Irish, what prominence Irish has, and what we lose when we lose our connection to the history and the heritage and the folklore and the stories behind the names of the places surrounding us. So it's a really important conversation, but we need to engage in that in a much more positive way.
Yeah, indeed. But, maybe you're talking about inviting people in through the door. Invite Donegal County Council in through the door, or the National Roads Authority, the TII, whomever is in charge of these signs. Maybe those that are doing it feel they've exhausted all avenues to try and get their point across, and it is now really over to the powers that be. Even maybe have the Irish version, the version, in a prominent position with the English version above it. I don't know, but maybe they feel the time for talking is over.
That may well be the case. That may well be the case. And I would certainly want to see the Irish version, the original Irish names of all these places taking priority. And that the English version of it, outside of the Gaeltacht areas, and in the Gaeltacht, it should only be Irish.
Well, talk to me a little bit about that, because that's not the case.
Well, I mean, according to the Official Languages Act, it should simply be Irish in the Gaeltacht, because the Gaeltacht is first and foremost an Irish-speaking area. And, if you went to France, you wouldn't be given off because the place names weren't there in English. So why would you do it in the Gaeltacht? We need to have a much deeper sense of respect for the language and be prepared to, well, if I'm going to Dunlow, well, maybe I specifically look for and Cloughan Leah on the signage.
Yeah, but if the truth be told, no one's using the signs. I mean, everyone has their phone on. If they don't know where they're going, they're using Google Maps or some equivalent. I don't think anyone's driving around now using signposts to get anywhere. So now more than ever, the English version on signs in the Gaeltacht makes no sense at all.
Yeah, well, and I'm saying there shouldn't be English on them. And yes, people are using Google Maps. Now, I have to say, you need to keep your brains about you whenever you're using Google Maps, because it can send you some weird and wonderful ways to places.
I think, well, I'm going to come into defence of Google Maps here. We don't want to conflate that with some of these internal sat-nav systems that come with the cars. Do you know what I mean? Because I certainly would not engage with them, even in my own car. But I do find Google Maps pretty reliable. But I take your point. But you want the signpost there. But look at. It's not hard to look at a sign in Irish for Dunlow or Loughnure or wherever it might be and work out where you're going. Do you know what I mean? We don't have to speed, because the people coming up here, you know, they've come up to Malin Head. They probably want, you know, a more of an Irish experience. But unfortunately, what they've seen, they have seen big red X's through English names. Now, if they're English visitors, for example, or German or French, they might not get the conversation we're having now. They might tie it in with what's, you know, happened historically in this country, and they might say, well, what's going on here? Am I welcome if I speak English? You know, we have to sometimes also put ourselves in the position of the visitor as well. This is not simply an internal conversation, because lots of people are seeing it and they might not get the context. I think we do, but I'm just concerned for visitors coming up here. What might they think? They won't realise that this is some sort of a ongoing conversation about the preservation and use of our language.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I think it's not necessarily the best way to approach it. I think it can come across as a bit aggressive. And as I say, I do understand the frustration. And what I would like to see the County Council doing, and I would certainly, here in Leon Canon, we're going to look at this. We're going to talk to the Ifika Panel around the county about it as well, of doing an awareness campaign about place names, as to where they come from, what, you know, it's a great way into the Irish language. And so maybe that would be a more useful thing, to look at how we do our signage, to place prominence on Irish, to encourage groups to use Irish language first. I mean, we all know Letterkenny. We don't need to say Letterkenny. We actually know we're living in Letterkenny. So to use more Irish, to give people more information as to where the names are coming from, to open, you know, that conversation up about heritage, about language, about history. I mean, if you look around here, like Elistrin comes from the word Felistrin, which means a yellow iris. Now that's beautiful. You know, if you look at the place names like Gortlee, it's Calves Field.
But that's the kind of information visitors want.
Exactly.
And we talked about this a little earlier on last week, you know, and I made the point, the visitors coming here, they want to engage with the culture. They want to make some sort of a cultural, spiritual connection. You know, that's what they've got their, I'm not going to mention any store names because they're very good and good employers. I'm not being critical of that, but they want to see here what they can't see at home. And that is our culture. That is the background of some of these names. That is the hidden gems, like where we're at right now, for instance, in Malin Head, you know. Okay, so where do we go from here then? I think we need to start having this conversation. You know, we are already having it, don't get me wrong. But in terms of, you know, like someone needs to ask, and we'll ask the council, what is the story with English being on signs in Gaeltacht areas, for example? You know, what's the justification of that? And also, what is the plan? Who's in charge of it? Is it the TII? What input does the council have? You know, I think people's voices need to be heard, and we need to get this conversation out into the open.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. And I would certainly be very happy in terms of, you know, on behalf of Lynn Canon, to engage with that conversation with the council and to ask them what the policies are and what the policy is going forward. Because, you know, if you look at Letterkenny, it's a Gaeltacht service town. If you look at Inishowen, you know, the organisation Glór Inishowen has just been funded to really, you know, ramp up their possibilities and their work in terms of promoting the Irish language in the Inishowen area. So how does council policy reflect all of that? Not just in the Gaeltacht areas, but, you know, ourselves here in Letterkenny, up around Inishowen. How is the council going to back those moves to increase the usage and the visibility of Irish? Because it's an absolute richness. You're right, Greg. That's what people want to see. That's what my job is here. it's to promote the Irish language, but to do so in a way that invites people into the conversation. That is what is vital.
Yeah, and use it as our our thread to a bow, or whatever the turn of phrase is, our string to our bow. This is a positive. This is something we should be embracing and enhancing, not squabbling about. Not me and you, Barbara, of course. We would never do such a thing. Thanks for your time this morning. Take care of yourself.
Thanks a million.
All right, then. Goodbye. Councillor Micheál Colm McGillen-Aspig joins us on the telephone now. We've been talking about it with Barbara there. Councillor, that why is English on road signs or place name signs in the Gaeltacht? I mean, you're a councillor. I presume you've raised this with the powers that be. What did they tell you?
Well, first thing I'd like to say, I would certainly welcome this conversation. The conversation around, I suppose, protecting our identity, our heritage, our language, culture is really important. And there are many activists out there who are doing fantastic work and trying to put the language forward. And there's plenty of others out there who are quite hostile to our language. But in relation to answering your question, it's just probably about 3-4 years ago, I went to the Irish Language Commissioner and raised the issue of Gaeltacht areas having English names in them, and the council has identified where these signs are, but yet here we are 3-4 years on and nothing has changed. They haven't done anything. It was a law that was brought in by Eamon O'Crieve, I think in 1997, in relation to Irish names, and as Barbara correctly says earlier on, in relation to the names of our towns and villages, Sloganyaha, they have meaning, and that meaning is important in terms of our identity. I know myself as chairperson of the Irish Language Committee within the council, I put forward a proposal actually up and around Moville. We were having a meeting at the time that the Donegal County Council would start using the correct names for her towns and villages and not use English names, because by using English names, the very name itself being forced upon us by our coloniser, and then it deludes and takes away our identity and who we are, because if you look at Letterkenny in English, it doesn't mean anything no more than Balbafay or Moville or any town name.
Any of them, yeah.
Yeah, they don't mean anything. It's meaningless, and it's only right that we are trying to reclaim the proper names of our towns and villages.
So who's in charge of this? Does it depend on the road? Is it Donegal County Council? Is it the TII? Who is?
Depends on the road, Greg.
Well, that's it, right? So what's the TII's national policy? We need to know that. Who are they consulting?
Well, look, that's in fairness, they're dictated to through the government's policy that was brought about in '97, and unfortunately it's not here to fully. But most of the signs are under the charge of the Donegal County Council, so they'll have responsibility here. And I think it's good that we're focusing more so on the subject itself than the actual act, because that's where the debate has to be. And the frustration that a lot of Irish languages, myself included, feel is that we're not being listened to. But I mean,
there's better ways. Like I was just describing it here. We're at Malin Head today, and I'm watching cars come up here from some English registered vehicles, some foreign vehicles, and they have seen these signs on the way up because it can't be avoided. And I get where they're coming from, but even in addition to the sign or something, I just wonder if they're looking at them and wondering, what's going on here? Are we going into some sort of a disputed area or something? Do you know what I mean? I'm not being dramatic, I hope, but I think it's an important conversation we should have. But I just wonder, well, maybe because it's done, that's why we're talking about it. I don't know. The jury's out in my head. I don't know what the right thing is.
I travel myself. I travel a lot. I go to many countries. But to be honest, and I don't mean to be ignorant here, I don't really care what they think, because this is about us, everybody, and our language here. Maybe I'm a bit dismissive there. I don't mean it fully like that, but that's not the debate here. Has to be about how do we protect and promote our language and our culture.
The debate too is to be able to have these conversations and to make progress in a respectful manner in which we care about each other and everybody's feelings. That's the only thing I'm coming at. I'm sick and tired of the internet being about one person saying this is what I believe, another saying this is what I believe, arguing, trading insults. It's just, and this is nothing to do with you. It's a general commentary.
It's not about insulting anybody. It's about having the conversation, and it's good because whoever done the signs, I'm sure if they're listening and they're going, possibly this is what this is about. Listen to us, have the discussion, and don't just park it. As a councillor, as you well know, because we discussed this loads of time, I conduct myself at council meetings fully in Gaelic, and it's getting better. At the beginning, you were laughed at, and you were totally and utterly dismissed. But we need to do more. We have council officials who do speak Gaelic, are able to speak Gaelic, but don't speak English. We need to encourage people to use the language, because the language is of no value unless we're using it. So for those that are involved
just very
in this
finally,
here,
sorry to cut across you, but we've a lot to get through, and I appreciate you taking the time. Is there an official line, like if you put a question to the council on road signs, is there an official line or a commitment from them to look at this, or what is on the record from the executive of the council as it relates to these concerns? Because from that position, then we can see where we need to go.
No, well, in terms of the Gaeltacht, as Barbara outlined earlier, the town, the name of the towns and our villages that are also in English, that's illegal. Council knows this, but they haven't acted on it yet. They've identified every single sign that is written in English, and they were to change it and remove it, but they haven't to date. And that itself would say to me that the Irish language, because I believe that the Irish language and the council, it's just a kind of tokenistic kind of gesture every now and again, in terms of the couple of Hockle and that, instead of it being very serious. Now, we're very lucky that within the council we have two great staff, Sean and Githrosia, who are very committed and passionate about the language. Our Irish Language Committee, which I'm chairing of, and I don't mean to be egotistic, but we're making huge strides now. We've taken it out of Lifford. We're moving it around the whole community. Like I says, we were up in Moville not so long ago, and I think we're in Glenfin the next meeting, and that's important. And making that committee relevant, making the language relevant, because the language reflects who we are as a people. And again, we're discussing this. It's good, and for those who are out doing this here, fair dues to them.
And just finally, out of interest, you mentioned Moville and Glenfin there. Why don't you use the Irish for these place names?
Excuse me?
You mentioned Glenfin and Moville there. Why don't you use the Irish version of these place names rather than the...
Well, normally...
No, I'm just curious why you don't.
Well, normally I do. Normally, to be honest with you, it's the Gaelic names I do use. If you watch my Facebook, I don't use the English version unless I'm really struggling with spelling. But generally, no, I don't. I conduct most of my work through Gaelic, and I think here we are having this discussion, and I'd like to thank Highland, because she's have been very good any time issues come up around the language, and haven't dismissed it or ignored it like some of the media outlets may do. So this is a very important discussion and debate.
All right, listen, thanks for your time again this morning. I really appreciate it. Our thanks to Barbara as well. Gurmai Gut, Councillor. Right, we will take a break. Professor, who's going to be joining us? Dr. Joe Kelly will be joining us. We already had a professor on. We're going to be out speaking to a doctor shortly.
The 9 till noon show, brought to you by the Northwest Truck Fest, taking place this Saturday and Sunday in the grounds of Milford Mart, with proceeds to Ellie's Wish to Walk and MS Ireland Donegal branch.
Nutrius Weanling Crunch offer, directly supported by the Arrivo Fodder Support Fund, is now available at your local Homeland store. Buy 10 bags of Nutrius Weanling Crunch ATP, get one free. The Nutrius Beef ATP pack enhances animal performance through maximising rumen efficiency. T's and C's apply. Contact your local Homeland or farm commercial specialist today. Visit nutrius.ie for full product details.
Dogs, cats, rabbits, birds and fish. Some of the popular home pets that need care and attention every day. At Gary's Pet World, our fully trained staff are here to help you and your pets. We offer great advice and value on all foods, accessories, grooming and care products, with incredible offers on all leading brands. Shop in store at Gary's Pet World, Letterkenny Retail Park, open 7 days per week, or browse and buy 24/7 at petworld.ie.
Bingo every Monday night at Halfway House Bingo Burnfoot. Doors open 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €6,100 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
Looking for your perfect, exquisite, award-winning wedding venue? The Red Door Country House Fawn is situated on the main road to Buncrana, just a short drive from Letterkenny and the city of Derry. We are hosting a wedding showcase in conjunction with Perfect Bliss Wedding Events on Saturday, August 27th from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. and would like to invite you to visit on this date. Wedding Showcase, August 27th at the Red Door Country House, Fawn, Buncrana.
Enjoy family fun this Sunday at the Northwest Truck Fest at Milford Mart with Truckfest Ted, live music plus prize giving for trucks in various categories, including the Decky Hullion Perpetual Trophy and George Tracy Memorial Trophy. This ad is sponsored by Donegal Tyres.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the programme, and delighted to welcome on to it now our historian in residence, Dr. Joe Kelly. Good morning to you, Imagine Why. How are you keeping?
Imagine why you good here, agus the luck Jack. Good morning yourself, Greg, and to your listeners in Highland Radio.
It's wonderful to have you on the programme again. Okay, so talk to us about Michael Collins, his importance in our history. We speak about an awful lot of important people throughout our history. Joe, where do you place Mr. Collins, or is that even disrespectful to ask?
No. I have to say I had a heavy heart yesterday, and it was a little bit emotional. I know it was a state celebration we had yesterday at Belnabla, and your previous contribution about place names, there's such a division over what actually Belnabla means, but that was the place where he was shot dead. And look, he was a great Irishman. People need to understand he was only 31 when he died. He was a young man that brought the British Empire to its knees in this country that we'd been trying for 800 years. And just emotionally for myself, like I really do, I think it was lovely. In his last entry in his diary on the 21st of August, he said, "People are splendid." He really believed in the people of Ireland, and he was very passionate about the people of Ireland. And you couldn't but feel the loss of such a wonderful person to our nation at such a young age. And sadly, it was our own that killed him. And that's a sad part of our history. But look, I was very proud to put up my tricolour yesterday, and I have it flying today. I think it's a momentous occasion, 100 years ago, actually today, that Michael Collins was shot dead. Possibly the greatest Irishman that ever lived.
Okay, well, we'll talk about his death. How did he become to be arguably one of, or the greatest Irishman to have ever lived? Take us back to his early life and then how he came to be in such a position of influence.
Well, look, from Cork and near Clonakilty, that's where he was educated, and he sat the British Civil Service, had a kind of an exam system, and he sat that exam when he was about 15. Now, his father was about 75 when he was born, and he says, Michael will do great things. And Michael was only 6 when his father died. And Michael did do great things. He passed that exam, and then he went to work in London for 10 years. He worked in a post office there, Blythe House Post Office. And while he was in London in 1906, those 10 years, he became very much involved in lots of different Irish cultural movements. The GA, which he played, and he was part of the administration, Conor na Gaeilge, the Irish language movement. And more importantly, he became involved in the Irish Republican Brotherhood. And it was the famous Sam Maguire, the Sam Maguire Cup, who was in London, who actually was a Protestant as well. That's interesting to point that out. It was he that brought him into the Irish Republican Brotherhood and influenced him. He had obviously those ideals from youth, but Sam had a big influence on him. And so he got another job then, and he was there to 1915. He actually was studying law in London as well. But previous to 1916, he just came home And then in 1916, he was involved. He was in the GPO in 1916. And interestingly enough, he was the aide-de-camp. He was the right-hand man of Joseph Mary Plunkett. So that was Collins's involvement in 1916. And then he wasn't court-martialed, but he was sent to Fonga. It was an internment camp. And Michael had learned a lot of administration skills while he was in London, working with the Postal Service. He seemed to be a natural organizer, a very intelligent, bright, capable, a man of great skill in being able to read situations and work with people and motivate. It seemed to have just a natural gift. He was endowed with that. And so really, it's something that the English never learned from. I mean, we had that with the H-blocks later. When they interred all these men, it really became universities for the revolution. So 1916 was over. All these men were interred, including Michael Collins. And actually, there's a lovely photograph of Joe Sweeney from Dunlow with Michael Collins in Fonga, had the two of them leaning over a banister. There's other men in it as well. But when Collins got out, he knew he was going to create hell for the British back in Ireland. And he was released in December 1918. But in the meantime, he'd created cells throughout the whole of Ireland. And the War of Independence would become rural Ireland's 1916. We didn't get the chance to rise out in 1916. So Collins made sure that he had his cells worked out, he had his strategy worked out, and really that was the beginning of Collins. And he came home then, and it was Kathleen Clark, Tom Clark's wife, that managed to get him a job, the National Aid and Volunteers Dependence Fund. But really, it was really a central position in gathering information and intelligence on the British. And so then, obviously, we know then in 1918, there was the election of Sinn Féin TDs rather than MPs, and the first Dáil then was formed in January 1919. And Michael was elected for Cork, South Cork, so he became an MP or a TD and attended the first Dáil and was made Minister for Finance by De Valera. So that was his main role to that point. And then he was appointed in about September of 1919. So shortly after the formation of the first Dáil, he was made Director of Intelligence for the IRA and Organiser for the Volunteers. And to be honest, he was the brains behind the War of Independence. Obviously, there were other people as well, but he coordinated it. And he was able to cycle around through Dublin. And he was one of the most wanted men in the British Empire at the time, and they weren't able to discover him.
Yeah, well, with that in mind, I mean, obviously, you're talking about the various roles that he held. He was involved in the organisation of attacks on police and assassinations and what have you. How was that covered? Were both of his roles common knowledge? You talked about him having, being wanted man but free to cycle the streets of Dublin as such. But how was he perceived amongst the public here or in the press?
Yeah, well, it was interesting at the time. People knew of him and there was a reward for him, but they knew him and knew of him, but nobody ever gave evidence or spied on him or gave him up, so to speak. And that says a lot about the Irish people at the time, that they knew what he was trying to do and setting out to do. Now, he didn't get involved actively himself. He had a squad, and we know the story. We talked before about a Bloody Sunday in November 1920. It was Collins that was behind that with his gang. And his idea was he knew he couldn't. I mean, the man was so intelligent. I mean, we talked before about Red Hugh O'Donnell. And I would put Red Hugh O'Donnell and Michael Collins on the same level. Like what Red Hugh achieved in his time, Michael Collins achieved in 1919, 1921. And what he realised was he couldn't take on the British Empire. Their army was next to none. The Britannia rules the waves. They had a quarter of the world. Their army was next to none. And he realised, look, the only way we can take on the British army is to take out their eyes, like a cat catching a mouse. And he says, I need to take out their eyes. And their eyes were their intelligence. And so on Bloody Sunday, he had 11 of their top intelligence officers executed. Summarily executed. There was nothing nice about it. They were just murdered, shot dead. And so therefore all this intelligence that they had in Dublin Castle was of no good to them, because they didn't know the people, the brains behind it, weren't able to explain it. And so the English realised very quickly that this is what was going on. And he masterminded all that, and he was very good at penetrating into the British intelligence system. And anybody that's watched the film Michael Collins would know of Ned Bry, who was working in Dublin Castle, and he gave information. But they eventually caught on to him and knew what he was doing. And maybe that brings us maybe later on to the treaty. Collins knew that he could only go so far with guerrilla tactics. Arms were getting short, munitions were getting short, intelligence was getting tighter. He knew as time went on that this was getting more and more difficult. And at the same time, for example, the likes of de Valera, who he managed to get, he planned his escape from Lincoln prison, and de Valera then went to America for 18 months on a propaganda tour. Collins was left with a lot of responsibility. And remember, at this stage, he was 28, 29. He was a very, very young man.
But given all that, he had to be accepted. He was one of the negotiators of the treaty. I mean, how would he have been received, I wonder, over in England? Okay, we seem to have a slight connection error there with Joe Kelly. I'm going to put that question to him after we take a very quick break. Stay where you are, because we've more interesting conversation coming up shortly.
The 9 till noon show in association with the Northwest Truck Fest this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart, with live music, family fun, a truck convoy and much more.
New this week in Home Store and More. All clothes hangers are all half price. And remember, all our office chairs and desks are also still all half price. Do you want to upgrade your home office? Get a more comfortable office chair and a modern space-saving desk? Or do your kids start in college and need their room kitted out? We have a wide range of half-price office chairs and desks to choose from. But hurry, because when all our half-price office chairs and desks are gone, they're gone. Shop in-store or online. Home Store and More. A happy home.
Are you worried about trees on your property? Northwest Forestry Services Ballybuffet are fully insured and have over 40 years experience in dangerous tree removal, tree felling, surgery and stump grinding. For peace of mind, call Northwest Forest Services Ballybuffet for a no obligation quotation on 913233.
Looking for a course to study in September? Discover CAFRE, the College of Agriculture, Food and Rural Enterprise, Northern Ireland's specialist agri-food and land-based college. Study agriculture, food, horticulture, equine, floristry, veterinary nursing and land-based engineering. With 3 campuses at Greenmount in Antrim, Loughery in Cookstown and Enniskillen. We've a range of courses available from level 2 through to master's degree. Visit cafre.ac.uk to find out more.
If you're aged 55 to 64, it's time to boost your protection from COVID-19. Your protection from previous vaccines or from COVID-19 infection decreases over time. Your next vaccine will help protect you from serious illness in the months ahead. Book an appointment at a HSE vaccination centre on hse.ie. Call our team in HSE Live on 1800 700 700 or contact a participating GP or pharmacy. From the HSE, for us all.
Okay, you're very welcome back. Dr. Joe Kelly still with us. So I was going to ask you, just before we had a freeze out there, Arthur Griffith and Collins was sent over to negotiate with the British. With all that had gone before, what would they have thought of this negotiating team, I wonder?
Well, that's a brilliant question. What they faced,
and remarkably, it's not one you gave me. I actually come up with that all by myself.
A fabulous question. Yeah, they faced a formidable team, probably one of the best political teams ever put before them. Like, they had Chamberlain, Lloyd George, Birkenhead and Churchill. These were the people that Collins, Duggan, Horace Plunkett, Griffith and Barton had to face. So they were up against it. But what people don't realise is that de Valera had already met Lord George about 4 times in London previous to the negotiations.
The groundwork was set, was it?
There was a groundwork set. One of the things that Lloyd George did when de Valera arrived over the first time, he he made sure that there was a massive map of the British Empire put behind Lloyd George where he sat, so as to let and a little dot Ireland to see what England controlled. And here, this is what you're negotiating with. So that was a very psychologically, these men knew what they were doing.
Right. So so to use common terms, then, sort of in a modern way, what would have been the red lines for the Irish party and the red line for the British party? In other words, compromise was going to have to be reached. There was going to have to be give and take, but were there red lines?
There were red lines, but the red lines weren't always straight, if that makes sense. I think that's a good political answer.
Yeah,
to that
I think
one.
so, yeah.
You see, if you look at the previous negotiations back as far as 1914, the intention was that there would be a government in Northern Ireland, Belfast, and that there would be a government, Home Rule government in Dublin. And that after 7 years, the two governments would form as one. That was what was proposed in 1914. That didn't happen, as we know, with the Government of Ireland Act. Northern Ireland was established, the 6 counties. And then, obviously, we know the War of Independence happened subsequently. So what they were negotiating for, 6 counties was off the table. Now, that wasn't the way that the Republicans were looking at it. No, we didn't fight for a 26-county Ireland. It was already a red line for the British negotiations. For the Irish negotiations, the hard line would have been Cathal Brugha and people like that, the real staunch Republicans. And De Valera had managed to convince them that they would accept Dominion status to a certain degree, that meaning that the king would still be in charge technically, but the oath wouldn't be as strong. And he was saying, look, this is something we'll work at eventually, and it'll dissipate over time. And De Valera had seemingly got them on board. So, look, the negotiations were very difficult. People will always ask why De Valera wasn't there. Cosgrave often said that it was the best player didn't go to play on the field. De Valera's attitude was, well, the king wasn't there, and he seen himself as the president of the Irish Republic, so he wasn't going. And it was a safety valve if they weren't happy with the treaty.
Yes, and we could, but some might sort of go, well, okay, well, that's fine. He came home, and everyone agreed, and that was, but it was not easy, presumably, to get this over the line. It would have to have been accepted in the Dáil and across general society as well. Like, was it 50-50 in people's opinion as to whether, because as you say, and you can hear how important it is out of Kyiv when they talk of Crimea, and how important it is to retain that, to have that return to them to secure peace there. I presume the same kind of... How could anyone celebrate this type of outcome to negotiations that meant, 6 of your counties were gone?
Yeah, well, that was a reality that they already had lived with in 1920, but they hadn't accepted it.
This ratifies it, though.
Yeah, it does. And Collins, what people maybe don't realise, and this will bring us maybe into another subject later on, the Drumbo martyrs in their own county. I mean, they were sent, Enright, Charlie Daly particularly, Enright, Daly and O'Sullivan, they were sent to Donegal to continue the northern struggle. So Collins was still fighting for the 6 counties in that sense. And he'd made a pact with De Valera, look, we'll fight over the treaty, but we'll go into coalition after the election in 1920. And when Lloyd George heard this, he got very, very annoyed. So the treaty, there was differences in the treaty. And eventually, look, the reality is eventually De Valera had to accept it. And the question maybe for historians, and the question I would ask is, why did the Dáil not say we're not accepting this, and go back to London and see what more could be leveraged, and then come back? But I think the decision was made rather quickly.
But you talked about those earlier meetings. I mean, how much of this in reality was already decided? And what followed was, was just dramatics. Do you know? In other words, was the deal done?
To some degree, the deal was done, and I think Collins realised that. I mean, again, more than anybody, he probably was acutely aware of the armament situation with his volunteers. We couldn't keep fighting the British Army. I mean, they threatened a terrible war within 3 days. He realised the pressure he was under from the IRA's point of view and what they could endure further. They were depleted stocks. it wasn't just possible to keep this going. And so his understanding was this was a step towards full freedom, using this freedom of the 26 counties to fight for the other 6 counties, something that no Irish government has ever done in our history, to fight. We basically abandoned the 6 counties historically, and that wasn't Collins' ideal. And as I said to you, he was still encouraging the Northern campaign. As I said, he sent men to Donegal. And so his concept was, look, we'll still fight for these 6 counties. And what was promised as well, and it's very
I wonder if we could maybe we could come back to this element of this story, especially given the local interest in this, Joe. And I'd love to go for hours, but we can't. So I want to get to his murder. And I know RTE have got a load of talking heads together to sort of suppose what may or may not have happened. But you said right from the beginning, it ended up he was taken out by one of his own. So talk to us about his death in the last 4 minutes that we have, please, Joe.
Well, very quickly, he was doing a tour of Cork, leaving Cork. And while going through Belnaba, the men that were waiting, they had heard that he was in the area. They had decided to ambush him. They'd been waiting quite a while. They were ready to abandon the ambush. And then the next thing, they had pulled a cart across when they heard he was coming. Shots were fired, and Collins was the only man that died in it.
And he said he would never be shot in Cork, didn't he?
He said, Asher, they'll never kill me in Ireland. That was his concept, that that he would be immune to that. Having said that, Birkenhead said to him when he was signing the treaty, you might have signed your own political death certificate. He says, no, he says, I've actually signed my actual death cert. And he was quite correct in that.
And who would have done it, and what's the motivation?
Oh, there's there's a lot of controversy over that.
But you must have settled on a view on this, Joe.
I will look at it. Was done certainly by the Republican side. There's no question about that. The intention by the ambush was to kill. There's no doubt about that. And unfortunately, Michael Collins was killed, and that was that. And there's no glazing or sugarcoating that reality. But the facts are that he was shot by his own countrymen, and when he was shot, he says, no revenge. He shouted to his comrades, no revenge, no revenge. And one thing that's very important to say, Collins during the Civil War did not want any of his former colleagues to be executed. To think that later on Kevin O'Higgins and the Free State government would execute 77, he didn't want that to go. And there's one thing that's very, very important to say, and I realise we're cut for time. He said one important line, and it ties in with one of your earlier contributors there earlier on. And I just want to say this line. We have to learn that freedom imposes responsibility. We are going to have United Ireland that Michael Collins dreamed of. But there's a responsibility on us now to figure out what United Ireland that is going to be. And I heard your Pádraig McLaughlin TD talk about that. I think it doesn't belong to any political party. But the reality is a United Ireland is going to happen. And on the anniversary of Michael Collins, maybe it's time we start having a discussion as to what does that mean?
The realities of it as well, even the not even just obviously, just the practicalities of it.
Yes.
In terms of even the postal service,
hospitals, education. Even the controversy in Irish language, we have to figure a way out, and fail to prepare to fail. And I think Highland is ideally, I've said this before, ideally positioned to have that conversation, because you straddle both north and south, and also all communities and traditions. Maybe you're very welcoming to that conversation.
You'll be part of that conversation. It might be something that we plan and discuss, and actually, mock it up as if it's about to happen, and how do we do it, and what needs to be done. We might work on that. Listen, I think it's a good thing that we always feel we don't have enough time, because we have been talking for half an hour, and yet we've run out of time again. Thank you so much for your time, as always. It's really informative, and I know the listeners love it. Thanks, Joe. We'll chat again very soon. Slán. Okay, that's Dr. Joe Kelly there. We'll be back with the news after we take this break.
The 9 till noon show, brought to you by the Northwest Truck Fest, taking place this Saturday and Sunday in the grounds of Milford Mart, with proceeds to Ellie's Wish to Walk and MS Ireland Donegal branch.
The big bucks are back. 4 Fridays.
4 winners.
Plus 1 lucky jackpot.
Oh, that ain't working.
€2,500 every Friday.
And on the fourth Friday,
September 2nd,
someone also wins
10,000 cash money.
Go to highlandradio.com
and get your €10 ticket. It's a whole new meaning to cash flow. Highland Radio.
That's the way you do it. Get your money for nothing.
Summer's just got better.
Don't sleep in and miss the very latest beds and mattress offers from dfibeds.ie, Ireland's leading online bed and mattress retailer. You'll get a comfy Irish-made mattress, upholstered base and headboard from an amazing €229. Check out the full range at dfibeds.ie. Delivery free and guaranteed to you within 7 working days. DFI Beds. Sleep well, live well.
I've great news for everyone who's looking for a good night's sleep. Restex Beds are looking forward to welcoming you to their brand new showroom at Mountaintop, Letterkenny. It's one of the biggest and best bed and mattress showrooms in the Northwest and has fantastic opening offers now in store. Restex is the most trusted name in beds and mattresses in the Northwest. Why don't you call in and get the bed of your dreams at Restex Beds, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Oakfest 2022 returns this September the 10th and 11th at Oakfield Park, Rafo. The 2-day, family-friendly music event runs across 2 full days with loads of amazing acts, headlined by Ryan Sheridan on Saturday and The Undertones on Sunday. Tickets are only €30 for the entire weekend, with limited tickets remaining. Get yours today at oakfieldpark.com/Oakfest or ticketmaster.ie. An exciting weekend not to be missed. Oakfest 22 at Oakfield Park.
Enjoy family fun this Sunday at the Northwest Truck Fest at Milford Mart with Truckfest Ted, live music plus prize giving for trucks in various categories, including the Decky Hullion Perpetual Trophy and George Tracy Memorial Trophy. This ad is sponsored by Donegal Tyres.
You are tuned to the 9 till noon show here on your number one local radio station, Highland Radio. We're broadcasting live today from Malin Head. We're going to be talking about that and so much more besides in the next hour. But now it's time for a news update at 11 o'clock, and it's good morning once again to Daniel Brennan.
Morning, Greg. A professor working at Letterkenny University Hospital says that overcrowding in its emergency department is a symptom of the wider issues throughout the facility. Professor Ken Mulpeter told today's 9 till noon show that a multitude of delays in both diagnosing patients as well as allowing patients to be discharged, along with a lack of staff willing to work there, are the main issues. He also said that morale in the Irish Health Service has reached a low point as many younger doctors and nurses see emigrating to better paid roles abroad as their future. You can hear his full conversation with Greg on our website now, highlandradio.com. A new survey shows that almost 4 in 10 childcare workers are looking to leave the industry. A survey of nearly 2,000 managers and staff in the early years sector cites low pay as the main reason for people leaving. 2 in 3 managers and owners say issues with recruitment will impact the quality of their services. Dara O'Connor from SIPTU, who carried out the survey, says the quality of care could be undermined for young children because of the lack of staff. The Army's bans have cost the state €25 million since 2018. The Defence Forces School of Music has 3 military bands and 100 full-time instrumentalists. Those who are in the Army band have no military training or role outside of a 6-week introductory course. Today's Irish Daily Mirror reports that the state functions accounted just for 8% of the over 800 events attended by the bands in the 2 years prior to the pandemic. Sinn Féin say that the government should begin preparations for a united Ireland following the results of a new opinion poll. The poll, carried out by Lucid Talks for the Sunday Times, found that more than half of voters in the north would support a united Ireland within the next 15 to 20 years. Donegal Deputy Potter McLaughlin said today, government must take a number of steps to prepare for an Irish unity referendum. And finally, today marks the 100th anniversary of the assassination of one of Ireland's most well-known revolutionary figures. Michael Collins was shot dead in an ambush on this day in 1922 in Belnabla in County Cork. The chairman of the Irish Provisional Government, Army Chief and Minister for Finance, was just 31 years old at the time. That's all from the news desk. For now, I'll be back with headlines again at midday. But until then, good morning.
Time to support your immune system and gut health. Choose new Udo's Choice Super 8 Immune Microbiotics with vitamin C to support the normal function of the immune system. Illness, poor eating habits and stress affect your immune system and can alter the balance of your friendly gut bacteria. 42 billion friendly bacteria per capsule and vitamin C makes new Super 8 Immune your #1 choice for gut health and immunity this season. Discover the Udo's Choice Microbiotics family range in the fridge at your local health store or pharmacy.
Hey, Brendan Devaney is the presenter of Highland Radio's DL Debate podcast. It's the show's broadcast itself after 7 o'clock on air, and then you get to listen to it whenever you wish. Right, Brendan, good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
How are you getting on?
I'm the very best. How's things in
Okay,
lovely
good
and
stuff.
Inishowen?
It is absolutely beautiful. We're very northerly here, you know, the most northern part of the island of Ireland. But anyway, we're going to be talking about that in a moment. Brendan, a lot to look back on in terms of the senior and junior championship. You've got great guests as always. Former Dr. Maguire winner Brendan Kilcoyne and the Donegal News reporter Ryan Ferry. So what do you think is going to dominate the conversation in that regard this evening?
Yeah, well, listen, we're just looking back at the weekend's championships, the 3 championships. First of all, with Brendan and the seniors. I was in beautiful Bundoran yesterday. The sun was shining and St. Eunan's had a easy victory over Bundoran, the local team. And the top teams, I suppose, in the county are, as usual, Greg, ahead of the pecking order in terms of the opening exchanges in the championship. So the round 3 draw was yesterday. So I'll talk to Brendan just about some of the pairings and matchups in that draw, and just how is there anybody from the chasing back when they put their head up and maybe cause a shock this season.
What do you think?
Listen, the only team, I suppose, Gweedore is the one team at the minute we're not sure about because they've such an injury and so many players out. If they were to get those players back, we'd have to see would they be genuine contenders. But I mean, sitting top of the pile is Kilcara and St. Eunan's, and they certainly seem like they're the 2 real form teams at the moment. And of course, Leave Collins you can never rule out. But there's a few teams that have been putting in good performances. You know, most notably St. Michael's, Glen Swilly. You know, have been coming up with a couple of decent performances here in Ballyshannon. Have won 2 out of 2. You can't ask for more than that. That said, now, you know, they beat Bundoran and Ardra, who are struggling at the minute. They just got across the line with them at the weekend. So I don't think you could count them as genuine contenders, Greg. So it'd be interesting just to look ahead to round 3 and look across the other championships as well. Ryan Ferry's joined us from the Donegal News as well, just to get his opinion on particularly on the intermediate and junior stuff.
Interesting guest too in Enda McGinley. You'll have a lot to cover with Enda.
Yeah, certainly. We have to throw the question about the Donegal job to him. He's a man who's dipped his toe into county management, and with a name like McGinley, Greg, surely he's some Donegal blood on him there. He's up from the Ballygolly area there, but I'm sure there must have been some Donegal connection at some stage. But Enda had a couple of years at Antrim there, so yeah, I'm fascinated to get his insight into management and inter-county management and the time and the effort it took, because you know, talking to him previously, I'd be good friends with him. He says he was managing upwards of 60 people in that squad when you took everything into consideration, and he says it was such a challenge that if he was to do it again, he would literally have to take a career break to do county management. So that, and I suppose Enda's now taking a seat in the Sunday game as well. You know, he worked for me for a long time doing CoolCom at games there, and he's a great analyst and a great fella, and even though he's technically on holidays this evening, he'll be giving us a few words.
Good stuff, pulling in the favours there, Brendan. Listen, thanks very much indeed. That's the DL Debate after 7 this evening on air and available for you too later as a podcast. Brendan, good luck. Thanks for that. I wish we had more time, but you know yourself.
You're all right, Greg. You're a busy man. Hey, you keep doing your thing there.
Okay, take care of yourself. We got an email in to say, what's wrong with parents in today's world? I think many of these parents should be prosecuted for abuse. Then it was First they were using their children to get freebies off big companies. Then it was a parent rushing into a room and tells their child that there are people outside who are coming to fight them and the child must fight with them. Now it's a filter which contains a ghost-type figure which is being used to scare children. I think that might be a man that appears behind you when the camera's held up to both people. This caller says, all this crazy stuff has a lasting effect on your child. Please stop. Well, Aileen Hickey is CEO of Parentline and joins us on the programme now. Aileen, good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's great to have you with us. There is no doubt that there are a number of people out there monitorising their children. They're using children for clicks in relatively innocent way, don't get me wrong. But I've seen some of these videos that have been put up on the likes of YouTube as well as TikTok, and you do wonder what impact it might have on the child. The child can't be that complicit in it because... Anyway, what do you think of what's going on? Can you hear me?
Sorry, I think it was
There's a slight delay. Sorry. What do you think of what our emailer was saying?
Well, I suppose what I'm thinking is there has to be a bit of a balance here. I mean, this isn't kind of the odd post of a family pic or an occasion, because actually I think what needs to be borne in mind is that social media is a great way of communicating, particularly for those who are trying to communicate with family abroad. There are huge positives to it. The issue is about, the oversharing that goes on. And there are parents that start their own children's digital footprint long before they're even born with, pics of ultrasound and all the rest of it. So, it has to be about balance, and a bit of moderation, because it's not, aside from the sponsored posts and the advertising and all the rest of it, it can simply be that there are kids out there who will later in life find it very embarrassing about the pics that have been shared about them without their permission, that, they may make them targets to be made fun of or for bullies later on. So actually, I suppose what's at issue here is that, there are parents there who are some of the biggest violators of their own children's privacy, and there's a lot talked about, the dangers of the internet and all the rest of it, and yet parents can make their own children, I suppose, be potential victims. Now, they're obviously usually doing this, very unwittingly, and they're revealing far more information about their children than they realise. But what parents need to remember is that kids have the right to keep their data private and not have pics posted of them continuously. It's I think the phenomenon is now known as sharenting, and there are some figures to suggest that that children, by the time they reach kind of 13 years of age, can have had upwards of 1,300 or more photographs shared of them by a parent. So there are parents out there, I suppose, who are making political statements, and that's certainly an issue. I mean, they could be making a political statement simply by having a slogan on a child's T-shirt, or even on their baby grow, or getting them to hold up banners, or having pictures of them taken at a march, whether it's on shoulders, and that's politicizing a child without their permission from a very early age. And
the funny thing is, historically, I mean, there are young people who were speaking at events, like through the miners' strike or something, and the videos are still played out now, as and I've seen them on Twitter. So it's not something that's brand new because of social media, but it's an interesting point that you make.
You're criticizing a child and without their permission, and without I mean, this should all be about respect and consent, and respect and consent is a two-way street. I mean, parents talk a lot about the respect and consent of their children, but it's a two-way street, and a child has a right to their own privacy and to keeping their data private. I mean, you obviously, the other thing that you mentioned there was, which is the even bigger issue of concern, is where a child becomes part of their parents' sponsored posts or exploitation, of the child. Yeah. And it's not just exploitation, actually. Also, I suppose the issue is as well is, it makes the child, I suppose, get into the mindset that it's all about getting likes and it's all about validation on the internet. And that's not something, that you want a child to feel validated just because they're getting likes, because suddenly they won't be getting likes at some stage. So, it's about common sense. It's about parents kind of picking and giving a bit more thought to the posts they put up and choosing, carefully, and considering what you mentioned there, which are the long-term implications for their children of this oversharing or this sharing.
But that's really, I don't know how we have that conversation, Aileen, because, I think a lot of people would say that you're making sense, but then a lot of parents do engage in that. And maybe when you're talking for the first time about oversharing, or what was that phrase? Sharenting. I think people are going to go, well, am I sharenting? Or what does that mean? Or what could, because obviously we care for our children. We don't want any harm of them. And maybe we don't even know the full consequences. Have we got 22-year-olds now that had their entire lives shared on social media yet? Yeah. I don't know. I think we're not far from it, Aileen, but nothing as public as this. I mean, obviously there was Bebo and stuff, but I think with the advent of Facebook and others, maybe we're only going to start seeing what the negative consequences of this could be.
You've actually just said it there. So, that is the issue, that we don't really have any way of knowing at this stage what all this oversharing on social media, how it can impact a child's life into the future. So the only thing that you can do is consider that, before you start posting stuff, the dangers you might be putting your child in, and, in terms of social media posts and validation and all the rest of it. Look, as I said, at the beginning, this isn't about, the odd family pick here and there, and and who you're sharing it with, because you can share in a private setting without having to share on a more public forum. So it's just about giving a bit more thought to it, maybe communicating with your child as to what they would like. Obviously this is once a child is of an age where they can talk and think for themselves, but communicating with the child and remembering that there has to be respect and consent, and a child does have a right to keep their own data private.
Yeah, and they're not simply content. Okay, listen,
Yeah.
It's a fascinating conversation. Thank you very much for your time this morning. I really appreciate it, Aileen.
Thank you, and enjoy the weather. It looks lovely up there.
It is lovely, but I'm glad I'm indoors just yet. The temperature's rising. Thanks so very much indeed. Take care of yourself. Aileen Hickey there, CEO of Parent Line, and she has been watching me on camera, of course, and I have behind me Malin Head. We made it here. We got as far as Malin the last time, and we got a bit of stick for it. Why aren't you in Malin Head? Well, we've made it all the way to Malin Head today, and we have a number of guests joining us to talk about what is here, what the offering is it being maximised, what's the visitor experience like. I'm watching now as a UK registered vehicle pulls into a car park, which is full. And what time is it now? It is, it's only just... what is it, 11:15. They're having to reverse out. I see two cars now just having to park on the side of the road because there's a handful of spaces there. They've already been taken up. So there's no buses here yet. There's no midday rush. And already people who just want to go up and see the most northerly part of the mainland are struggling. Okay, so we'll get an insight into that and see where we're at. Okay, but let's take a break as we line our guests up. We'll be right back with you.
The 9 till noon show in association with the Northwest Truck Fest this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart, with live music, family fun, a truck convoy and much more.
The big bucks are back. 4 Fridays.
4 winners.
Plus 1 lucky jackpot.
Oh, that ain't working. €2,500 every Friday.
And on the 4th Friday,
Someone also wins
10,000 cash money.
Go to HighlandRadio.com and get your €10 ticket. It's a whole new meaning to cash flow. Highland Radio.
That's the way you do it. Get your money for nothing.
Summer's just got better.
Translations by Brian Friel is coming to the On Green On Theatre, Letterkenny, from the 30th of August to the 3rd of September. In an age of Brexit, this modern masterpiece reminds us of the power of language, communication and understanding. This new production is directed by the Abbey Theatre's artistic director, Katrina McLaughlin. Don't miss the Abbey Theatre and Lyric Theatre's co-production of Brian Friel's Translations at the On Green On Theatre. Tickets from €25 at ongreenon.com.
See the great new collection of Aqua Clean suites now at McGinley's Furniture in Letterkenny. Aqua Clean is a unique fabric treatment that allows you to clean stains using only water, and these Irish-made suites can be made to measure. Also see McGinley's huge range of corner groups, recliners and leather suites. Transform your house into the home of your dreams at McGinley's Furniture on the Joe Boner Link Road, Letterkenny, and at mcginleysfurniture.com.
With selected models readily available, it's time to treat yourself to a brand new car. Our Kia lineup is unbeatable in their class. Call today or visit us in Letterkenny or Malin, or visit imotors.ie.
Crawford Tiles Bathroom Suites and Wood Flooring Castlefinn. Massive 3-day sale starts this Thursday the 25th. There's 20% off tiles on Thursday, Friday and Saturday only. Other products discounted in store. Remember, 20% off tiles for 3 days only at Crawford Tiles and More Castlefinn. Call 9143942.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show. We're joined in studio now by our next guests, and they are Councillor Martin Mcdermott. Good morning, Martin.
Good morning, Greg.
Oh, I've got a mic for you. Very good. Now, this is the the risk. Ali Farron, manager of the Malin Head Community Development. Good morning to you.
Yes, good morning.
No, that's not you. What about now?
Oh.
I'll come back to you in a second. Stay where you are. No, we'll come back to you in a moment. Martin, Councillor Mcdermott. I was just noticing as we were handing over to the last ad break, there are some facilities up here, but you really do have to come up here to realise that we're not making the most of it here. The car park's already full. There's people already parked on the side of the road. There's no buses here yet. Not many camper vans just at the moment. You can see how very quickly this place gets locked down.
Yeah, that's for sure, Greg. I mean, yesterday we were here for a launch of a bench. You couldn't even get anywhere near up here. The traffic was backed up down to the end of the road. They were parked side of the road everywhere. People couldn't get up or down. So you can see the volume of people that are about. This is a Monday morning, and you can see the volume of people that's about here already. When the buses don't tend to come to later on in the afternoon, at that stage there's even more traffic here and people can't get up and down. So, look, as I've said to you before, we've been talking many's a time about the development of Malin Head, and we had public consultations back 3 years ago. We have a plan in place for the redevelopment of Malin Head.
Yeah, but in 2021, you put a question down or raised the issue in the council, and you asked, what is the story? And can I ask you just to move slightly to your right, Martin? You asked, what's the story? This was okayed in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. 3 years later, you asked, well, what's going on? Where's the progress? Where is the progress? So you asked the question, what's the answer?
Absolutely. In 2019, as I say, there was a public consultation where all the people, the community, the businesses came together, and Fall Charity came up with a redevelopment of the tower and redevelopment of Malin Head. That process over the last 3 years has really been way too slow, both from a council perspective and from a Fall Charity perspective. And I think, we're at a period of time now where things need to move on. And that is hopefully moving on very, very shortly, with the going to Part 8 planning, going to the Falls Ireland committee to funding for this development. And to be fair to Falls Ireland, they are very much committed to funding this development, and the same with the local authority. But the timelines that they've been working to is way too slow. And hopefully, as I say, over the next couple of months, we'll see a movement in that development.
Ali Farron, what do you think? Do you think we will?
Well, we've waited this long. I suppose we can only hope that we don't have to put in another summer like what we had this year.
Well, set the scene for us then.
Well, we've always tried to promote Malin Head, and in turn, by promoting Malin Head, we're promoting the whole of Inishowen. So this is the icon. This is the jewel in the crown, for want of a better word. It's the main signature point on the Wild Atlantic Way. We have people. I didn't see any today actually, but there's always somebody Misson Head to Malin Head or Malin Head to Misson Head. There's activity at this spot 365 days of the year. And, when we promote Malin Head, we want people to come. And the coach industry and people on buses, they're getting afraid to come up here, because you come up here, you get blocked and your day's ruined. So we need proper parking up here. And we also need activities up here, and we need something to generate jobs up here to keep people in this area. That's bottom line.
Where is the proposed development to take place?
There's another question.
Do you know the answer, Martin?
Here at Malin Head?
Yeah, whereabouts?
Yeah, well, the development starts here. If you look out here, Greg, to your right, you have the tower. There's a redevelopment of doing up the tower and these outhouses, and then there's a massive big walkway that comes from the very top of the tower down to that next tower, and then that goes the whole way down over the Era sign, down to the water, back up again, and then back out into Donaldra, which is Ireland's most northerly point. And that.
What? You mean I'm not at Ireland's most northerly point yet?
You'd have to walk out.
Seamus, stop up the bus.
This is as close as you're getting today.
And it's a fantastic development, and it will be iconic.
Where's the car park going?
It's proposed that the car park goes before you come up here at all, down at the very bottom.
Right. What do you think of that, Ali?
I think we'll be delighted to have one.
Yeah,
we can do the electric bus thing. We can do all that thing in the future.
I think that makes sense, because that's you don't want to be pouring too much tar and concrete up here.
No, that's what all these top researchers and all are saying. So we'll take it. Like we just need it to be right, and I'm sure it'll be a teething. There'll be a lot of. We'll get some of it right and we'll get some of it wrong. But it has to start, and then we can fix it.
But Councillor, Ali referenced there, Malin Head, sometimes you have to try and promote things, and you give out for, they're not mentioning this, and like, it's here, it's people want to come. It is Monday morning, it is towards the end of August. I didn't think there'd be anybody up here, to be honest with you, but the car park is full, there's people around taking pictures and all. Like, it's just a shame that we're not making the most of this, because I think, if I'm honest, if I were from down the country and I came up here, what's here at the moment, I don't think there's anything here. I mean, we've got private individuals up at the top, which I haven't got to yet, which have coffee shops and all that type of stuff, and we'll be speaking to some of them. But in terms of what the council or the country's providing as infrastructure, there's not an awful lot here outside of the toilets.
But there's a fear here that we ruin one of our greatest assets, which is the views and the scenery as well, Greg. Like, this pathway here takes you to where Star Wars was filmed in Skildren. The beauty is unbelievable. But we've got to...
There's always a balance, Ali.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We've got to make it right for when people come, that they can park at their leisure, use the toilet at their leisure, and spend longer here, and so that they will be able to spend more money within any show then.
Do you think that people would stay in any show, or do they come up here turning away again?
Yeah, that's the problem, and that's the issue, Greg. The timelines that fall Sheridan would say people spend 28 minutes in Malin Head. That's not long enough. We have to develop this area, keep the beauty that we have, but develop it, that we keep people
So you're
here.
thinking people are coming up, taking the photo, box ticked and away again?
Absolutely. We have to develop it, that we keep people in this vicinity, that we're able to, come to Malin Head, move on to all the other parts here, like down the coast to Glengad, to Kildare, to Moville, to Clonmany, to Buncrana, to Cairndonagh. We have lots of other businesses that could be tied into this. The Doe Famine Village, the Marine.
But you not even remember
the
fight to get in the shown as part of the Wild Atlantic Way.
Yeah, we have Wild Alpaca just down the road. We have so much to offer here, but we need to have the iconic spot that people come to, and that they can be derailed everywhere else. The Show in 100 should be and must be and could be every bit as big as the Ring of Kerry. It's one of the most beautifulest runs that anybody could do, and we need to develop that. We need to build all this into this, because tourism is so important to so many people. So there's so many jobs dependent on this all over the peninsula, that we have to. And you asked the question, has it happened? It hasn't happened quick enough. Absolutely not. There's no doubt about that, but it must happen, Greg.
Yeah. And Ali, are you convinced we can push out that stay time?
I do. I think we have a lot to offer. Certainly within any show, there's no doubt about it. But by having something prestige here, it will take more people into any show, and which will benefit the whole area. And I think, you asked about the Wild Atlantic Way. This is the top earner as regarding numbers of,
But it wasn't on the original plans. That's the point I was making.
Again, when people complained and we got it on, so it's on now. So don't be worrying about it not being on. We're here. It's the most visited signature point in Donegal.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. There's only one place in Donegal that claims to have more visitors as Glenveigh, as far as I'm led to believe, and that is marketed by a state agency.
Well, you see, when you were talking about what's planned here, I was thinking Glenveigh, and I was thinking Park and Ride. You know, like, if you have a car parked down there, however far down it might be, and I'm pointing behind me. Sorry, I know we're on radio here. I just wonder, with a family with toddlers, if there's no way to get up there, is that enough for them?
Well,
because in Glenveigh, the walk is fantastic and people love the walk and the cycle, but the buses is where it's at. You've got good parking and you bust in and you bust out, and the buses come regularly, reliable. They've got brilliant staff on them. I'm not saying you could have a conveyor belt of buses here, but I think really that's where you need to be at. Because a lot of people don't like walking, Ali.
and I'm one of them, if you know to look at me. But I do think we need our car parking very, very close to this location, like Glenveigh, not in Malin Head, 5 mile on the road. Because people come here. They're not coming on the Lewis. They're not coming on the train. Or they're coming 90% of them on their own car or whatever. And we want them to be able to available, quick hop on, hop off. Sorry.
And Mark, too, part of the attraction as you drive up here is the sense of the rural nature of it. Do you know what I mean? It is the houses that seem half built onto the road as you drive around them. Do you know what I mean? And it's not dissimilar to other parts of our county. I mean, that if I'm a tourist right from outside, that is the experience I want as well. I don't want to come up here and everything floodlit and loads of buildings with massive windows of glass and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It has to feel real, but the basics needs catered for, that you don't even know it, you just expect it there, that, you know, they're not in your face.
No, absolutely. And the drive up to here, you see that we want to keep that, you know, rural element to it, and that you're coming to the most northerly point in Ireland, and that's all part of the new iconic programme that Fáilte Ireland and the council have put together, and I think that has to be kept. And to be fair to the local community and to Ali here in Malin Head Development, you know, the work and the time and the effort that they put into keeping this on the agenda and pushing it, that's vitally important.
Is that code language for Ali's a pain in the neck?
Well,
I hope so.
You can read into that whatever way you want.
That's why you're here too, Greg, let's be fair.
Well, listen, you know. You know, I mean, every part of the county is equally important to me. And, you know, we said we'd come up, and I think it's important too. And the conversation is 90% positive. It's the 10% we need to get right. This is not about having to go at the council as well. It's just getting to where we need to be. And you have to come up here to appreciate it, you know. Talk to me about these buildings on the hill to my right here, to your left there. I mean, they're quite modern looking, but it kind of belies their history a little bit. They have been around for quite some time.
Well, for most people who come to Malin Head, they probably think, well, all we're coming to is rural or derelict buildings. But there's some great history here.
Yeah. I think it's, as I say, they look quite modern, and I think that's why they look like they
well,
probably
they were probably the last
dashing.
generation. I'm not, off the top of my head, I'm not sure when the tower was built, but you know, the buildings there. Marconi was one of them buildings. Is the Marconi building, which is very, very important in the world. You know, it's to do with the first radio signal was sent from Malin Head.
First from where? First ever?
First ever across water by radio.
Right. I mean, that's pretty important, isn't it?
Right. And out off this coast here, like we've more
Don't forget the mic, Alex.
we have more German or more U-boats and liners sunk off here than there is anywhere probably else in the world. Then we have the Era 80 sign, which was showing how Ireland was neutral during the war. You know, all these things.
Kind of neutral.
Kind of neutral, yeah. You don't be ruining a good story, you know. We were neutral. There was the weather station. The weather was read here originally before it moved into where Met Éireann is now. So, you know, lots of things have happened in Malin Head, and it's important that when we get our new or whatever, that all these things is remembered in some form or fashion, so that again it becomes educational and it becomes, you know, to tell people like it's just not enough for people.
But you see, the thing about it is, it's like our conversation we were having earlier on about the Irish road signs. If you're coming here, if you make the trek to Malin Head, right, that's the kind of stuff that you want. You know, you want to be able to take a picture and say, do you know that this is the tower in which such and such? Now, I hope you're not being a wee bit flexible with history, Ali, because of your love of Malin Head. I hope what you're telling me is true. But you know what I mean? Would the council back what Ali's saying? I wonder, Martin, do you have your doubts?
Ali doesn't always tell the truth.
But
from a politician, that is as good as you'll ever get.
I can't. Can someone open the window? The irony in here is choking me.
Yeah, but we have a story to tell here at Malin Head, and it's so important, you know, that we tell it, and it's so important that people learn.
Must be a Fine Gael man, is he?
Yes.
Is he? All right, that explains it. Come here, Martin. I didn't know that when I guessed it. Finally, then, sort of back to where we began, because we've other guests to meet, and maybe you'll dip back in, I don't know. Martin, talk to us about timelines then, because a lot of it feels aspirational, but this has been okayed. So just recap what you've been told as it relates to planning, okaying, funding, progress.
Yeah, well, Fáilte Ireland have committed to the development here at Malin Head. There will be needed to be extra state funding from the department, but we can't actually get that until we have a planning permission in place. All the drawings, all the work that the consultants have done is all done and ready. We're just in a position now where there are negotiations with landowners in relation to land. That hopefully, as I say, over the next probably 6 to 8 weeks, will conclude to a point where the council will have to move forward to planning permission and going to get plans put together and sent for planning permission. And at that point then, that won't take a very long time to get that done, because this will have to go to More Penala, because as you know, this is a special area conservation here as well that we're on, and all the boxes will have to be ticked in that. But look, we certainly want to be in a position for early 2023 to be in a position to get funding in place and to move the development on here.
Yeah, I just, and I don't doubt your commitment to this. This feels very much like I might ask you the same question in 2025. Out of your hands, you can only do what you can do. It just sounds to me, because we've done these stories 1,000 times, absolutely. It just sounds to me like it just takes a...
Yeah, look, this is something that from going back to the day that I got into the politics here in this part of Northern Islone, that Ali Farn and Jim Mullen and the Malin Head Development Group have been pushing, and we've been pushing very, very hard, and it's like hitting your head off a brick wall. There's no doubt about that.
But we're all going in the one direction.
But we have to keep the pressure on. We have to keep pushing, and I really do feel that we're at a point, Greg, where this is very, very close of getting over the line.
Yeah, Ali, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah,
we need a little bit of faith, isn't it?
And Greg, it's brilliant to have Highland at Malin Head today, and I want to thank yourself, Caroline and Seamus and Kevin, for coming down, because
it's our pleasure.
It's brilliant to get Malin Head promoted and to get this area promoted, and I just want to acknowledge coming to
we were in Downings on Friday, and I was saying to Ali earlier on, I think I said it on air as well, 36 kilometres as the crow flies from Downings, where we were on Friday, to here, but it would be a 2-hour drive. It's remarkable, really, isn't it?
But worth it.
Yeah, and they said over there that that's the best peninsula. What do you think, Ali?
Maybe we should set up agree with that.
Maybe we should set up a charity boxing match between you and Tiny Vaughan.
But this is technically
I would pay for that.
The 33rd county of Ireland.
Peninsula versus peninsula. What do you think, Martin?
We think we're the best.
Yeah, we certainly
no, wait a minute. We'll rephrase that. We don't think it. We know we're the best.
Right, okay. Well, who am I to argue? Who am I to argue? Gentlemen, both of you, thanks very much indeed. And we'll have more guests joining us on the programme. As I say, we appreciate Ali Farn's time as always. He always gives us a great welcome, as does Councillor Martin Mcdermott. Okay, let's take a break, and we'll see what guests we've lined up for you after these.
The 9 till noon show, brought to you by the Northwest Truck Fest, taking place this Saturday and Sunday in the grounds of Milford Mart, with proceeds to Ellie's Wish to Walk and MS Ireland Donegal branch.
Fancy an adventure? Pack up the car and enjoy a day out with the National Trust in Fermanagh. Find magnificent mansions, tree-lined trails and riverside rambles. Go butterfly spotting at Castle Cool. Hire a bike at Florence Court and explore Lough Erne by boat at Crom. Watch the sunset from your tent or glamping pod. Explore and re-explore, adventure and re-adventure. Search National Trust NI to find out more. National Trust, for everyone, forever.
For big name menswear at great prices, visit Watson Menswear in Letterkenny. Top casual brands including Mishmash, Sixth Sense, Tommy Bow and Penguin. If you're going to a wedding or a big event, formal wear names include Rimassimo, Andre and White Label. Also a great selection of children's casual and formal wear in stock. Watson Menswear, open 7 days a week on Main Street, Letterkenny, and online at watsonmenswear.com.
What's your dream job? Lawyer, engineer, criminologist, or software developer? Do you want to develop renewable energies, create the next great drama, or improve people's health? Anything is possible at Ulster University Ncbi campus, where you can study in the heart of Derry, Londonderry. Clearing places are now available to help you realise your ambitions. It's time to say hello future. Apply now for September 2022 at ulster.ac.uk.
With selected models readily available, it's time to treat yourself to a brand new car. Our Kia lineup is unbeatable in their class. Call today or visit us in Letterkenny or Malin, or visit imotors.ie.
It's the Northwest Truck Fest at Milford Mart this Saturday and Sunday. Highlights include truck lights display on Saturday at 9, and on Sunday afternoon it's a convoy of trucks through Milford at 5. This ad is sponsored by Brown's Cars Milford, main Suzuki dealer.
Okay, you're very welcome back to beautiful Malin Head, the 9 till noon show live from Ireland's most northerly part, mainland anyway, I suppose you could say. And it's getting busy up here now. People up visiting from all over, just going by the number plates and what have you. And there is something else for people to see, or indeed to take a seat on. It's the Bench of Hope, and that's what we're going to talk about now, because in studio with us is Valerie Fitzpatrick. Good morning, Valerie.
Good morning. Very nice to be here, and thank you for having me this morning.
Yes, indeed. It's a brilliant opportunity. The timing is excellent. This bench was the official unveiling yesterday.
Yes.
And it was well attended by all accounts.
It was. It was a fantastic day yesterday. The weather was absolutely gorgeous. We unveiled the Bench of Hope at 3 p.m. It was an absolute honour and a privilege to be here yesterday in such a gorgeous place. And we were delighted to have the Fox family here. So the bench was put up in honour and recognition of Johnny and Gertie Fox. So they are two people who were part of the founding committee for Darkness into Light, and we all know the amazing impact that Darkness into Light and the walks and the fundraising has had in the lives of so many people, and it's touched so many people's lives. So yesterday, after about a year or two of planning, we finally got to unveil the bench in recognition of Johnny and Gertie Fox. So it was a fantastic day, very well attended. There was lots and lots of people here, lots of family and friends. And also with the bench goes a poem. So there's a poem there on a plinth, and it's called Your Light. And the idea of the poem is that you will read it, you will think about things, you will have maybe a positive view on whatever might be going on in your life. And the idea is that we will all share our light and we will all come together as a community. The bench is there for anybody to sit on. And if you're sitting on that by yourself, maybe a passerby might smile at you or have a kind word or say hello. It's a lovely bench. The materials were sourced in Donegal, so everything there is from Donegal, reflecting the beauty of this place. And the idea of the bench really is that you sit there, you relax, you take it all in, and you get inspired, and you reach out to other people. So, as I said, the title of the poem is Your Light. So it's all about sharing your light and being involved with other people, supporting other people. We know mental health is a hugely important topic for us all, and it permeates every single part of our lives. So we're delighted to have this bench and poem there that people can enjoy as they come here anytime, and we hope to put a lot more benches in a lot more places. So we've reached the most northerly point of Ireland, and our next one hopefully would be in the most southerly point of Ireland, and then we will hopefully
And do you hope in some way they become maybe part of the Mizzen to Malin journey?
Absolutely. Interestingly enough, this place was chosen because Johnny Fox himself was the first solo runner to go from Malin Head to Mizzen Head. So he would have started here a long, long time ago. And yes, absolutely, it would be fantastic if these became different points around Ireland that people could go to.
And where is the bench located? We're sitting here at the car park now. Where is it from here?
So just behind us here we have the car park and we have the toilets. So it's literally just there as you come out of the toilets at the edge of the car park. It's the first thing
By the way,
you
just
will
to be
see.
clear, you're not sitting outside the toilets?
No, you're
just in
definitely
case
not.
someone at home is painting a picture of... Sorry, excuse me.
Definitely not. It's the edge of the car park.
As you come out of the toilets, you turn left and
exactly.
it's there.
So it's actually
and it's got a beautiful vantage point, actually.
It's fantastic. It's actually the start of that pathway that brings you down, and you can take all those fantastic walks around Malin Head. So as you leave, you'll see the bench, you'll see the word hope is printed on the plinth. So as you embark on your walk, you have hope with you and you've hope at your back. But the lovely thing is when you're coming back up the hill to return to your car later on, you can also see the words hope, and it's on the other side of the plinth, because we all know it's easy when we're setting out and there's no uphill struggle, but when you're coming back and your legs are tired, you often need that little bit of hope. So please, please, please come to Malin Head, sit on that bench, read that poem, be inspired and share your light with other people, because that's what we would love you to do. And thank you so much.
Valerie, thank you so much for your time. We're going to be speaking to our next guest in studio here just after this short break.
The 9 till Noon Show in association with the Northwest Truck Fest this Saturday and Sunday at Milford Mart with live music, family fun, a truck convoy and much more.
Want unbeatable value from Sky? Here's the deal. Get Sky Broadband for just €29 a month, plus Sky Q for only €10 a month. Super fast, super reliable broadband. And Sky Q with your apps and recordings. That's Sky Broadband for €29 a month, plus Sky Q for €10 a month for 12 months. Now that is unbeatable value. Go to sky.ie. Availability subject to location. Offer does not include Sky TV subscription. New Sky customers only. Setup fees, minimum term and further terms apply. For more info, see sky.ie/speeds.
Bingo every Monday night at Halfway House Bingo Burnfoot. Doors open 7:30 with eyes down at 8:30. €2,500 must go. The snowball is now €6,100 on 45 numbers or less. If you're not in, you can't win. That's Halfway House Bingo tonight at 8:30.
If you're tired and struggling to put a spring in your step, discover the power of Revive Active at your local Brennan's Pharmacy. Revive Active is an award-winning super supplement containing 26 active ingredients, including vitamin C, D and zinc, which support your immune system, all in one handy daily sachet. Made for busy, stressful lives, it's the convenient way to put back what life takes out. Enrich your life with Revive Active. In-store or online, click and collect from brennanspharmacy.com. We're here for you.
Listen very carefully. Did you hear that? There it goes again. And again. You can now apply for the Household Benefits Package online. It's there to help you with the cost of electricity or gas, and you can even get a free TV licence. Over 70s automatically qualify, and others may also be eligible subject to qualifying conditions. To find out more, visit gov.ie/household package. The quickest and easiest way to apply is online at www.mywelfare.ie. One package per household. Brought to you by the Department of Social Protection.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the programme. Into studio now we welcome Ronan Doherty, who is co-organiser of the Jika Jika Festival. It's this weekend in Malin. This coming weekend, is it?
Yeah, Malin Head on Saturday and Sunday. 20th.
All very exciting.
Yeah.
Talk to us about it. What kind of festival is it?
It's an electronic music festival. We have Sasha headlining, who would be one of the biggest DJs in the last 3 decades. And there's another 60 DJs on the programme as well, so...
I haven't heard about. How come I haven't heard about this?
It would be big with the younger generation.
That would explain it. Now, come here, Ronan. I was just seeing if you'd say, I don't listen to country. Come here. What was I going to say to you was, where is it actually taking place?
Behind the Seaview Tavern.
Right.
In the field behind there, to be 2 tents.
Excellent. Yeah. All right, so Sasha's the headliner. I think most people going back, people in their 40s will know who Sasha is, of course. Who else stands out for you, for those listening that would be interested?
There's a young DJ called Modea, who's from Donegal, and he's about to blow up very big. And Vertigo, who was big for the last 20 years as well. And Richie Blacker from Dublin. And Yasmin Gardizi, who's been tearing it up recently. So... a lot of big names, yeah.
And there is a special guest headliner. Has that already been announced? Am I looking at an old press release? Or is there someone as well as Sasha?
No, it hasn't been released yet. I'm actually unsure what the story is when it's going to be revealed. But
how big a name is it?
I'm not sure. That's up to the other organisers.
Right,
that's on my part.
They must not trust you for not letting on at all.
Well,
but anyway,
we just all have our own.
Suffice to say, it's going to be a name that people will very much recognise. This is huge for the area, isn't it? I mean, you're talking thousands of people expected in.
Yeah, it's Jika Jika is a huge organisation. They do events all over the world, and with Sasha's been DJing in the last month. He's been DJing in Chicago, New York, Glastonbury, Manchester, Argentina, Oslo, Budapest. Now he's coming to Malin. So
it's quite the list, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what about tickets? Are tickets still available?
Yeah, they are limited, and a lot was sold this weekend. So if you're looking to go out, recommend you can get them via Skiddle.
Brilliant. Okay, and people will know where that's at. Up to 15,000 people expected.
No, it won't be 15,000. They usually do 15,000 this weekend in Derry, but that's over 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
But yeah, there will be a lot of people. It's going
yeah,
to be
of course.
event.
Well,
but tickets are limited, so.
All right, and it's Jika. Jika. Okay, brilliant stuff. And just remind us one more time where people can get tickets.
Via Skiddle, or if you go to the Jika website, you'll be able to get them there.
Brilliant. Okay, Ronan, well done, co-organizer of the Jika Festival. It's this weekend in Malin. Sure to be a great weekend for those interested. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very
All
much.
Right, take care
you.
of yourself. Thank you very much indeed. Right. Okay, we're joined in studio now by Bren Whelan. Good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us. How are you keeping?
Hi, Greg. Good morning. You're welcome back to Any Show.
Yes, it's great to be back. And we were touching on the history. People, of course, will know you from Donegal climbing and mountaineering instructor as well. Talk to us about what Malin Head means to you, what this peninsula means to you.
I suppose the what Ali was referencing earlier was this significant uniqueness about Inishowen. And I suppose overall, it is a place about time. Where you're parked there behind you is Innistrahull Island. That's the start of Ireland's geological timeline. You have the oldest rocks in Ireland there. They're 1,780 million years old. And you're situated at the top of Ireland's largest peninsula. They're unique things about that location. But Malin Head is a place that really just has so many features linked to it and big names over time. Ali mentioned the tower. The tower is a Napoleonic lookout tower built at the start of the 18th century by Lloyd's in conjunction with the British Admiralty. And the idea with that tower was to, be a watchtower in terms of whether Napoleon was going to invade Ireland and use it as a backdoor to invade the British mainland. Marconi, who Ali also mentioned, he's the founding father of radio. And it's, you're sitting there 120 years after he sent the first long wave radio communication from the building just beside where you're parked.
That is something we should be screaming from the rooftops, isn't it? I mean, or maximising the potential of it.
For sure. And look, Fáilte Ireland recognised that. Donegal County Council recognised that. And you asked the question, is the history supported by Donegal County Council? And they have a document which is called Malin Head, an Enchanting Place with a Colourful Past. And it lays out the history of Malin Head very clearly. And that document was produced in conjunction with Dr. Sean Beattie, who is a very well-known historian from Inishowen. And the timeline and the significance of the area, it reaches way back into geological time, but into more modern times as well. And it runs on. And it is a place, it is a raw location. It's one of the raw last signature points on the Wild Atlantic Way. It gets 173,000 visitors a year. That's bigger than Slieve League. It's 165,000 at Slieve League. And Ali mentioned about Glenveigh. They get over 200,000 visitors a year. But yet, look, everyone recognises Malin Head is constrained.
What's your feeling about development here then? Because, by all accounts, that's a very successful tourism spot. And if people choose to spend 28 minutes here, maybe that's all we can achieve. You talked about its ruggedness and it's untouched, for the most part untouched. Are you nervous at all about any of that being lost through development at what is already a hugely successful tourism area?
Well, everyone's going to have to take a risk, aren't they, to make the site, work in terms of giving and realising its full opportunity. And that's a risk that's going to have to be taken locally by landowners, by the council and by Fáilte Ireland. And it's going to need buy-in. And you have, James Joseph will be there, the local landowner at the tower today, and he's always there, and he's helping and he's integrating with the businesses there. And that's the kind of risk you need, a bold step, but one that's in keeping with this particular location and its uniqueness.
Yeah, you run Star Wars tours, right? I mean, is the interest still there? That hasn't waned. People still make the trip here to sort of have that connection with where the film was filmed?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm up there tomorrow running a tour for a Danish family. So, yes, and then I'm running a trip for Fáilte Ireland at the weekend with a group of TikTok influencers.
Wow.
And thereafter then have an Australian TV crew up for Fáilte Ireland. The interest is very much there. But, Star Wars is one element of the history, and I've had some of the biggest Star Wars fans in the world up there doing the tour. And my role there was I was looking after Mark Hamill, Daisy Ridley, and we also had Adam Driver there. But what people really feel is the common thread you've had in your show this morning: authenticity. You know, people want to know about the place. They want to know about the place names. They want to know about the history. And even the biggest Star Wars fans will say when they come to Malin Head, the Star Wars element is fabulous, but what Malin Head is all about is really the story that they're interested in.
Right. And no better man than yourself for that. And I would love a chat separate to all of this, really, where we could dig into that a little bit more. But we're out of time for now, Brendan. Thanks very much for your time, okay? That's Brendan Whelan there. Right, in studio, Dominic Mcdermott, owner of Cafe Bamba. Good morning, Dominic.
Good morning, and thanks for having me.
I think I had one of your coffees earlier.
You did,
delicious,
yes.
lovely. Come here, how long have you been set up here?
We've been here for just over 14 years. We think we're Ireland's longest-running coffee van. And we started in 2008. We started with a tiny three-wheel little coffee van that we imported from Italy.
Yeah.
But found within weeks that the weather at Malin Head was far too much for it. It was built for the Mediterranean and not for 75-mile-an-hour winds that we get up in Malin Head. So we swapped it out for a slightly bigger one that protects us from the wind a bit.
Who have you served coffee to of note? I mean, everyone's equal in my eyes. I don't do this celebrity stuff, but I think we're all equal. But come on, for those who like the celebrity names, drop a few.
I suppose the big names were Mark Hamill and Aidan Quinn, Connie Nielsen from the movie sets that we've worked on up here. But my favourite one, I think the biggest one we served was John Hume, because he used to come up here quite a lot. And he was such a great man that it was always a privilege to serve him.
Yeah, a true great man indeed. And in terms of the season, right, has it changed much in the 14 years?
No, we kind of operate from kind of the beginning of March through to the end of September.
Yeah.
It changed a bit over COVID because
it extended it a bit, did it not?
We extended it a bit. We found the past few years we've just had so many more people coming from Ireland and on staycations, and it's been fantastic because we've seen so many people discovering this amazing, rugged place that's so unspoilt. They've discovered an island that they didn't really know that they had on their doorstep.
Yeah. Okay. And what do you think the future holds for Malin? You're successful here. You've been successful for 14 years. We were talking a little earlier on about where maybe this place needs to be, and it has to be done correctly. What do you? I think you're chatting to an awful lot of people that come up here. What are they saying to you? Visitors.
The visitors love this place because it is so rugged and unspoiled. The reason we chose to do a van up here was because at the end of the day, we drive it away. We drive it away and we leave absolutely no trace of us, and people would never know that there'd been anything.
Yeah, but we can't do that with the car park.
No, so it does need some work. It needs to kind of preserve the rugged look of it. People need to come up here and be able to stand up at Malin Head and see nothing but sea and mountains. So whatever they do, and they know the developers of any scheme are rarely aware of this, it has to maintain this kind of unspoilt beauty of the place.
What do you do up there other than coffee?
We do baking. We have a bakery as well. So we sell coffee and cake. And there's another little stall up there that sells souvenirs, Wild Atlantic gifts.
Excellent.
But we found that people aren't really looking for much more. They need the toilet, a cup of coffee, a rock to sit on, and maybe a little magnet or something to take home with them.
To say they were here to recognise it. Yeah, okay.
And then a walk along the cliffs, which is one of the best walks in Ireland, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it is beautiful. We have a beautiful... The whole place is beautiful. I know I'm saying that, but I mean, like, I could name 4 or 5 different places right along our coast and inland as well. Glenveigh is landlocked and it's also beautiful. We've got so much to offer. We just have to make sure we're getting the max from it. Listen, thank you so much for calling down.
Thank you.
And your coffee's beautiful, by the way. So if you're up in Malin Head, call in to Dominic and the team at Cafe Bamba, and no doubt they will hook you up. Okay, that's where we have to leave it on the programme today. We're back in studio tomorrow. It's been wonderful to be up here in Malin Head and to fulfil a promise that we said we'd come up here, and I think it's been an interesting conversation that just does not extend to Malin Head but to many places around our beautiful county and region. Thanks to Seamus who drove us up here, Kevin who engineered, Caroline of course as always who produced. producers, Oisin, who helped us out back at base, and also Emma Ryan for working on the programme. It sounds like there's so many of us work on this show. It's not really, but to do an OB, a lot of people have to come in and help, and we really appreciate it. We're back with you in studio tomorrow morning from 9. Stay tuned. John Breslin's up around the Northwest after the news at 12.
The 9 to